vettes eine being zayn. Oime ve Yosef gewaft harub dem Stein. Eine hat gleich heraufgekickt, für wie kommt es sich ein? Der Gewirr steht in der Macht des Himmels. Zerattelen ist mein Leben gleich gekommen. Joiden im Schloss suchen ins Ballen, es ist Huyen von Neuere. Oi, wenn in Himmel steht der heilige Beure, geht ins Gesehen Panusse, geht daran ins Chayes, warft ins Geseide, ruft mit Bahayes. Auf dem Mattes mir geht sich warten.
Welcome to the Halacha Hour here on jrootradio.com. We are broadcasting today live, July 26, Gimel Av Tafshin Ayin Zayin. We have a lot of stuff, Bezat Hashem, to cover today. It may sound like I'm on speed, like when you put the recorder on a speed. So that might sound like a little bit too fast, but you know what? We really have to cover the halachot. I apologize if it's not going to be as slow as usual, but Be'ezat Hashem, we hope to cover the halachot. The intended goal to cover today, Be'ezat Hashem, is the halachot. 3 categories we want to cover. Number 1 is the laws of Erev Tisha B'Av. Number 2 is the laws of Tisha B'Av itself, which will probably be in the main chunk. And finally, the halachot regarding the 10th of Ab. So, before that, let's just give you the times and the dates of the holidays. The time is this Monday night, July 31st. 8:11 p.m. is sunset. That's when the fast begins. Tuesday, which is August 1st, by 1:02 is Hatzot, which is when we don't have to sit on the floor anymore. And then Tuesday evening, 8:10 is sunset. And what time is the fast over? The fast is over, we always give 3 times, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and 51 minutes. 30 minutes is 8:40, 40 minutes is 8:50, and 51 minutes is 9:01. You don't need me to really tell you those times. You obviously, should check with your local minhag. If you're a person who is a benutam, we didn't even put it on the list. It's something like 9:22, I think. That makes sense, right? Okay, 9:22 is Shitat Rabbeinu Tam. Those are the times that we put. The earliest time is obviously for those who are pregnant are fasting, for those who are not feeling so well. Even if you began to feel not so well during the fast, even if you weren't sick before the fast and began to feel not so well during the fast, then it's okay to break the fast at 8:40. Otherwise, 8:50 and 9:01 is really more recommended. 9:01. Anyway, you'll do as your minhag is. Okay, so I think we got through the dates and times. Let's give you the numbers to listen to the radio. 718-683-5858. If you have a question, we will not take you on today. It will be only off the air, but you could call in. Somebody's here, and he will take down your question. If it's something that we didn't cover, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll try to cover it. 347-927-8398 is the number to text us. I have the screen right in front of me. So that's the best way to reach us, to tell me, whatever you like to tell me. You're going too fast, you're going too slow, or hi, that's also, we'll take that as well. Okay, let's get to the halachot. Rabotai, we are discussing today the halachot of Erev Tisha B'Av, but let's just give you a little bit of a review from the last class. We mentioned that the halachot of Avelut during the 3 weeks, they are identical, as the tour brings down, they're very identical to the halachot of mourning, and it gets more and more intensified. So we're going to review very quickly when the 3 weeks began, what was forbidden in the 3 weeks, and then as it got more intensive. Let's begin. When the 3 weeks started, we already stopped making weddings, parties, no music, no dancing, no shehiyanu. Ashkenazim also began to stop taking haircuts and shaving for men, of course. The 9 days came, when Rosh Chodesh Av came already, no meat and wine. You cannot buy or make new clothing. You cannot do construction when it's not necessary for living. And you cannot prepare for weddings, that is buying gifts for the Hatan and Kala and all other wedding related stuff. Of course, there are exceptions to everything, but we can't go through the exceptions. You listen to last week's class. Ashkenazim, once the 9 days began, their minhag is that they stop taking showers. They also do not do laundry. When Shavuot Shehalbo comes, this is only relevant to the Sfaradim. Now, 3 things are forbidden during Shavuot Shehalbo. And again, the details you'll have to listen to the other class. And that is, the 3 things are laundry, haircuts, and bathing and showering in hot water. Cold water, we mentioned last week, is a mahloket, although technically it's mutar for the Sfaradim. Some restrict it. So again, you'll listen to last week's class, you'll hear their opinions, or you'll ask your local Rav. Today, Be'ezat Hashem, the subject at hand, the first subject at hand is laws of Erev Tisha B'Av. These things are relevant only after Hatzot, because before Hatzot, it has the same dinim as Shavuot Shehalbo. After Hatzot already, we begin to touch some halachot, or at least some things that are relevant to Erev Tisha B'Av. Let's list what they are, and then Be'ezat Hashem, we'll go through them. And finally, number 3 is accepting the fast. Let's begin with learning Torah. The Rama brings in the name of the Maharil, one of the Rishonim, that a person on Erev Tisha B'Av should not learn the regular Talmud Torah. He should only learn in stuff that are said, things that we would normally be mutar to learn on Tisha B'Av. However, even though the Rama quotes it, Maran clearly does not bring it. And in fact, most Ahronim disagree with this Rama. They hold that that one should not, doesn't have to be. So we don't find the Isur. Besides the Mahari, we don't find this Isur brought down in the Gemara, for sure not. So therefore they disagree, especially that if it's going to cause Betul Torah. And especially if Erev Tisha B'Av happens to be on Shabbat. So therefore, the maskana, the conclusion of the poskim, the best way to do it is as follows. If you could learn sad things, that means you can learn things that are relevant to the fast, or you're going to learn stam, limudim, or parts of the Torah, which are said, that's the best. You'll say they have according to everybody. But if not, if your Talmud Torah will be weakened in any which way, then it's mutar to learn whatever you want on Erev Tisha B'Av. And of course, it goes without saying, but we're going to say it because there's a lot of things that go without saying, but we have to say it. If there's a shiur kabbalah, if a person has a class or a learning time or a learning session on Erev Tisha B'Av, it should not be canceled because it's Erev Tisha B'Av. For example, let's say a person at work has a havruta that comes to him, has a special rabbi that comes and learns with him, or he has a break and he takes a break and he sits down and learns with somebody. Even though it's after Hatzot, you should not break it because it's Erev Tisha B'Av. That's going to be, what are you going to do otherwise? If you can learn other things, but you're not going to learn at all, Betul Torah does not override this opinion, based on a certain minhag. Next, the laws of Seudat HaMafseket. What is Seudat HaMafseket? Seudat HaMafseket is the final meal prior to the fast, right before the fast. That's called Seudat HaMafseket. We have it twice a year, once before Tisha B'Av, and once right before the oncoming of Yom HaKippurim. The minhag is that this meal is eaten the following way. We eat it sitting on the floor. We try not to eat 3 men together, so this way they're not obligated in zimun. That means you eat it separately. The minhag is also that we eat food that usually mourners eat on the first meal after when they become a mourner. For example, like eggs or lentils or dry bread dipped with ashes. That's brought down also. So that's the customary. When I say the word customary, that means preferably one should try to do that. But halacha, we have to know what halacha forbids. And then where we have kind of like that gray area that allows us to maneuver a little bit. Customary, the preferred way, we told you already. Halakha tells us we may not have 2 cooked foods. You're not allowed to have 2 cooked foods. That means you want to eat something cooked during Seudat HaMafseket, you're allowed to have only 1 cooked dish. But to have 2 separate cooked dishes, that's forbidden. So let's give you a few details of this halakha. Foods that are normally eaten raw, if you happen to cook them, will be asur. For example, tomatoes. Tomatoes can be eaten raw. You could also cook tomatoes by, let's say, barbecuing it or grilling it. So to have grilled tomatoes is considered eating a cooked dish. If you plan to eat another cooked dish, you're not allowed to have cooked tomatoes. Another thing, even something that's cooked, it may be 2 different foods, but if they're normally cooked together, then even though it's 2 separate cooked foods, then it's mutar. For example, let's say people usually cook rice and lentils. That's what we call mjaddara in Arabic for those who have such a custom. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, I would love to invite you, but after Shabbat we don't invite people. Anyway, so the mjaddara is basically rice and lentils. These are two separate dishes, but they're normally cooked together. Since they're normally cooked together, it's fine. But something that's not normally cooked together, you can't put it together and say, oh, it's all one cooked dish. So therefore, let's say you want to make a parv chalent, or for Siratam Apseket, it'll be mutar. Normally you cook the barley and the meat and the potatoes and the beans together. But if a person now wants to take rice and he wants to take also inside the rice, he wants to put I don't know what they cook on it. Or he wants to put also tomato, things that basically you don't normally go with the rice, and now he's going to cook it all together. Even though he cooked it all together, that's considered two cooked dishes. What you did is you combine two dishes together. Also, pickled foods or baked foods are not considered cooked. Baked, I don't want to say baked in the oven. Baked means to say baked products like bureks or things that you make, cakes, all these things. Even though it's another dish, it went through the oven, that's not considered cooked food. That means you're allowed to have a piece of bread and egg together, even though the bread is baked, but it's not cooked. Cooked is the issue. But to bake, we don't have fish really. Fish also we don't eat during Salat Mafseket. But let's say something like fish, something that has to go in the oven. I can't think of anything right now. But if you have to cook something by baking it, not baked products, just regular things, that would be a problem. Next, if no pots were used because if 2 pots were used because food couldn't fit in one pot, even though 2 separate pots, it's considered one dish. So you couldn't fit your rice and lentils together, you couldn't fit your spaghetti together, then it's considered one dish. However, if you have 2 pots of spaghetti, but each one has a different spice, so you have spaghetti with tomato sauce and spaghetti with pesto sauce, that's called 2 different dishes. Even though they're both spaghetti, it doesn't make a difference. That's called 2 different dishes, and you're not allowed to have it during Saudat Mafseket. One final thing, most Ahronim permit tea for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that it's not cooked on Kli Rishon, it's cooked only Kli Sheni. That means you pour the water from the urn, and then in the cup, you put the tea bag to give it a little color. That is not a problem. Therefore, those who like to have tea, especially before the fast and at the end of the meal to digest their food, even though you already had a cooked dish, tea is not a problem. Also, things are normally pasteurized and not called cooked. So if you want to drink a cup of milk, all the milks in the United States of America are pasteurized, which means they're cooked in order to kill the bacteria. So therefore, if a person is drinking milk, even though he also had eggs, it's not considered that you had 2 cooked dishes. Meat and chicken is forbidden by most kehilot in the 9 days. But even those who have the custom of eating meat and chicken in these days, it's forbidden. Also, we do not eat fish during Sudat. Also, Benish Hai brings down a person should not eat salad. Even though salad is raw food, but I guess salad in the times of the Benish Hai was like a luxury. It was a pleasurable food. It was like a dessert, basically. So, therefore, Benish Hai brings down you shouldn't have salads. Nowadays, salad has become a main staple. That's a food. A lot of people get filled up on the salad. But the concept that the Benish Hai is saying applies not as a deen, but as a suggested humrah that one should try to keep. And that is, don't have pleasurable foods. Things that are necessary, they need to have also, even though a little bit more luxurious, try to cut down. So therefore, I brought down, a person should not have pickles or ketchup or mayonnaise. Come on, what's going to happen if you eat the food without the ketchup? It's going to go down. Why do you need the ketchup? Pleasure. Try to cut down on it. Try to cut down as much as possible. And of course, it goes without saying that one should not have ice cream or ices, even to the children. It should not. This is not the time. Wait 2 days. You'll have it after Tisha B'Av. For Saudat HaMafseket, you should not have it. Now, some people, the Ramah brings down that some people have a minhag, and a lot of people do it today. And if you're doing it for the right reason, then it's recommended. If you're not doing it for the right reason, then it's not so recommended. And that is, they eat a full meal. They eat all different types of foods together before they pray minha, and then they go pray minha, and then after they pray minha, they come back and they have the quote unquote the official meal after minha, the meal of Sadat Mafseket with just bread and eggs. Now the Ahrani bring down, if you're doing it because The right reason means that you want to have enough food in your system. So then that's fine. That's great. Rabotai, you have to be very careful for your health. Yes, we have an obligation to fast, but not at the risk of one's health. To fast and to be weak during the day of Tisha B'Av is normal. You're not risking your health. We're talking about the Has V'Shalom. You because of the fast, you go into sakana, dehydration, all these things. So make sure you eat well and you drink well before the fast begins. So therefore, if a person is doing it for the right reason, because he wants to be strong for the fast, mutar. It's great. It's recommended. But if he's doing it because, you want a cup of wine, it's like, you want to go for the, you want to go, when you go to a wedding, you want to go to the buffet beforehand and have the meal afterwards. You want to catch the shmorg and the meal afterwards, just so you can have more food. That's not a recommended reason. That's actually suggested to avoid. Again, I can't restrict you from halacha because technically, according to halacha, you didn't do anything wrong. But Hashem knows the mahshamot of a person. Don't act in such a way. Next, accepting the fast. The third category of Erev Tisha B'Av is accepting the fast. There's no to the fast. Unlike Yom Kippur or Shabbat, where we add from the weekday to the holiday. For example, let's say Yom Kippur, the fast begins at 8 o'clock. That's Shekia. The mitzvah to accept Yom Kippur a few minutes before, some hold even up to half an hour before. Let's say 7:45 to accept the fast. That's a mitzvah. Every Shabbat, that's also a mitzvah. However, on Tisha B'Av, there's no anyan. There's no anyan to accept the fast early. It's not like, you mosif mikedusha. There's nothing, no such a thing. If you wanna accept the fast early because you're scared that when it's already sunset, you might forget yourself, but you don't have to. There's no need to add on to the fast. When does the fast begin? We already told you, 8:11 is sunset. So 8:11, you stop eating, you stop doing all the things that we're going to list soon. But if a person now, after eating, he decided in his mind, you know what, I don't want to eat anymore. Question is, do you have to accept it or not? So let's tell you basically three levels and what the halakha holds. Level number one, if a person finishes Seudat HaMafseket, he said Birkat HaMazon, and he sees, he still has about a half an hour or 20 minutes, whatever it is, till the fast begins, and he decided, no, I don't want to eat anymore. Okay, in his mind, he decided that I don't want to eat anymore. So in that case, if later on something pops in his mind, and he says, I should have a cup of tea. It's good to have a cup of tea. The rabbi on the halakha hour said that it's good to have a cup of tea. It's good for the fast. Or I'm going to drink Gatorade before the fast. That's mutar. But you decided not to eat? No, we just decided not to eat, but you didn't accept upon yourself the fast. However, if a person in his mind decided, I want to accept the fast, in his mind, but he didn't express it, he didn't actually say, I want to accept the fast, that leads us to a mahloket. The Rama says, Kabbalah Shabbaleb is not called a Kabbalah. Just because in your mind you said, I want to accept the fast, since you didn't express it with your mouth, you have no obligation. That means, let's give it an example. So let's say the fast is beginning at 8 o'clock, and you decide at 7:45, before the Shabbat comes, you decide, you know what, I want to accept the fast. In your mind you said this. According to the Rama, as long as you didn't say it, at 7:55 you're allowed to drink a Gatorade. However, some of the Ahronim, the Gra and the Bah hold, no, that's it. You're bound to what you said in your mind. Since you accepted it, you're bound. And therefore, you cannot drink your Gatorade once you decided to accept the fast. However, everybody agrees that when you do want to accept the fast and you expressed it, you said at 7:45, you told your family, that's it. I'm not eating anymore. I know the fast. I still have 15, 20 minutes for the fast. I am not eating anymore. Everybody agrees you are obligated, you're bound by your Kabbalah, by what you accepted. So therefore, if a person doesn't want to get himself in that position, or he thinks that, you know what, I might want to eat, later on, you should come by Seudat HaMafseket and say, I will not accept the fast until Ben Hashmashot, those are the words of the Mishnah Berurah, I will not accept the fast until sunset. And this way you avoid all problems. And in case an idea comes up to mind, or you want to eat something, then you'll be mutar to eat it until sunset comes. Then you're bound to the halakha and you're not allowed to eat it. Okay, we're up to category number 2, which is going to be the main class today, and that is the laws of Tisha B'Av. I want to quote to you the Tur in Siman Taf Kuf Nun Dalet, quoting the Gemara Masechet Ta'anit, and he says the following: Tanu Rabbanan, the sages of blessed memory have taught, Kol ha-mitzvot hanohagot be'abel nohagot be'tisha b'av. All the mitzvot that apply to a mourner apply in Tisha B'Av. What are they? On Tisha B'Av, a mourner, although a mourner is permitted to eat, however, on Tisha B'Av we're forbidden in achila u'shtiya, we're forbidden to eat and drink, urchitza, washing, sicha, anointing, ne'ilata sandal, putting on leather shoes, v'tashmish amita, and relations. There are three categories that we want to discuss for the laws of Tisha B'Av. Category number one, which is the subject of learning Torah. Category number two, what we call the five anuim, the list that we quoted right now from the Tur, which is what we said again, just to repeat it very quickly: eating, drinking, washing, anointing, leather shoes, and relations. And finally, category number four, And finally, the third thing that we want to discuss today is the conduct that a person is supposed to have on Tisha B'Av. So let's get straight to the halachot, and let's talk about category number one, learning Torah. What is the halakha of learning Torah? Unlike Erev Tisha B'Av, where we said it's only one opinion, on Tisha B'Av, which we will discuss in a second, but that's the general rule. One is not allowed to study Torah. Why? Why is it forbidden to study Torah? And the answer is two reasons. Number one, a person who studies Torah gets very involved in what he's studying, and therefore he gets distracted from the theme of the day. The theme of the day is that we have to be mourning. We have to think of the hurban, of the destruction, all the tragedies that happen to the Jewish people during these days. So when you're busy studying Torah, you're not thinking of the tragedies of the day. The second reason that's brought down why we cannot study Torah on Tisha B'Av is because of the pasuk. Pasuk says in Tehillim, Pikudei Adonai Yesharim Mesammehe Lib. The commandments of God are straight. They make a person happy. One who truly studies Torah will tell you, yes, it's such a simha. It's such a happy thing. When you study Torah, you get very happy. Tisha B'Av is not a day to be happy, and therefore, for these two reasons, we are not allowed to study Torah. What does it mean you're not allowed to study Torah? What kind of Torah is forbidden? Technically, any Torah is forbidden. We'll tell you the exception in a second. That includes even your daily learnings. For example, you have a Daf Yomi. You cannot learn your Daf Yomi page on Tisha B'Av. Chok Le'Israel, you cannot. Tehillim, I have my daily Tehillim. You cannot read, even just reading Tehillim is forbidden. Kavahomer, if you have your regular daily learning, for example, you have your Mishnah a day or Daf of Mishnah Berurah a day, all that must stop for the day of Tisha B'Av, like a mourner is not allowed to learn. However, there are exceptions, and that is any learning that is part of tefillah. For example, those of us who wake up a little earlier, we know that we say korbanot. In korbanot, there's a lot of parts that come from the Chumash, there's some parts that come from the Gemara, and some Mishnayot, like the Ezehum Ekoman and other things. Reading the Torah in the Tzibur, even though it's technically learning Torah, it's mutar. Anything that's what the poskim define as seder ha-tefillah, things are part of the daily prayer services, that's permitted. Now, study of Torah, remember the two reasons. One is that it distracts you from the morning, that's why it's forbidden to study Torah. Number two is makes you happy. Therefore, based on these two reasons, one is permitted to learn sad stuff, because the sad stuff will not distract you from the morning, that it's talking about mourning. And number two is you're not going to be happy. Even though it's learning Torah, but you're not going to be happy. So therefore, let's give you a few examples. To learn in the books of the Sefer Eyob, which is really one big tragedy from almost the beginning till almost the end, that is forbidden. To learn the book of Yirmiyah, it's also parts, there are parts in Miyah, a lot of parts in Sefer Miyah which talk about Hashem warning the Jewish people about the oncoming of the Beit HaMikdash. Also it's mutar. However, we're learning even Sefer Yirmiyah or Eyob, there are parts that are happy, the happy ending of Eyob, or parts where Hashem gives a nehama, condolence, or consoles the Jewish people. Those parts must be skipped. Even though you're saying, I'm learning anyway. No, you cannot finish the happy ending. Also, in Masechet Moed Katan, these are examples of what the poskim bring down. Or the halachot of Avilut or Tisha B'Av from the Tur Shulchan Aruch, all this is mutar. On a condition. What's the condition? You may not learn these subjects be'ayun. You may not learn it in depth. You got to just scan it, because when you learn in depth, we all know that when you learn to any parts of Torah in depth, it gives you certain simha, especially if you mehadesh hidushim. Other things are mutar that are brought down that one could do on the day of Tisha B'Av because it's a long day. It feels like a long day. You can't do much, and you just need to do things. We got so used to always being busy. So you can learn everything that has to do with the fast, like the midrashim or the gemarot that have to do with the destruction of Mikdash, the history books that discuss the Hurban Beit Hamikdash or the destruction of any Jewish community. Let's say Holocaust stories or tragic stories from the Inquisition. I don't know if they still they have such stories. But anyway, all these are mutar to learn or to read on Tisha B'Av. What about somebody who is sick? Could you read Sefer Tehillim? Could you read Tehillim for him? So, Hakam Ovadia brings down, if there's somebody who really needs Tehillim, not somebody, like you're just, used to saying Tehillim for your great-grandfather because, he's in his 80s and you're praying for him. No, somebody who's really sick, he is in need of Tehillim. So, Hakam Ovadia brings a hetir. Now, all this that we said, that you cannot learn even Torah because it may distract you, so Kavah Homer, one cannot get distracted with other things. For example, you can't read the newspaper, you can't go on your phone and play games, you can't read novels and books, even though they're Jewish, quote-unquote, novels. It doesn't make a difference. Again, only things that have to do with tragedies. And if it's a fiction book, if it's a princess got lost, yes, it's a big tragedy, it doesn't make a difference. It's distracting from the morning. It has to be real tragedies to the Jewish people. Also, a person, for the same reason, a person cannot go on a stroll, go for a walk, hanging out, relax. That's all forbidden. Smoking, a lot of poskim wanted to forbid it for the same reason, but if a person really needs it, his air, his oxygen comes from the cigarettes. Okay, so this guy who needs it. But said about a person who's smoking for leisure, for just for enjoyment, that is forbidden during the Tisha B'Av. Next. There are programs in shuls, some people want to know. There are programs in shuls where, Baruch Hashem, many shuls have started to make programs where they have speakers throughout the day or videos throughout the day. Is that mutar or is it distracting me from the fast? So the answer is, although they don't discuss the subject of Tisha B'Av itself, but if they're discussing things that may lead to the rebuilding of Yerushalayim, if they're discussing the problems that we have for causing the Beit HaMikdash to remain destroyed, then it is mutar to go to these classes and to attend these classes and to listen to these classes, whether online or in person, during the days of Tisha B'Av. In fact, ever since Baruch Hashem, a few organizations started, but now most schools have it, where they have basically awareness on Tisha B'Av to understand what the day is about, to understand what things that we work on in Tzibur today. Baruch Hashem, people's hearts are open, and yes, even though it's what you call killing time, or just you want to use up the day, but you're using it in the right way. You're studying about important points that are needed on Tisha B'Av. Question is brought down: what does a person do if he gets an idea during the holiday of Tisha B'Av that he wants to write down? That means he has a hiddush Torah. He's sitting there thinking or spacing out or listening to some class, and then all of a sudden he thinks of a beautiful hiddush. Now he knows himself. If I don't write down this hiddush, I'm going to forget it. But you know what? At the same time, if I write down the hiddush, I'm learning Torah. Is it mutar or not? So, if you have an idea about parts of the Torah that you're not allowed to learn on that day, so you're not allowed to write down. Unfortunately, yes, it might be forgotten, but you're not allowed to write down. For example, you're sitting there listening to one of the speeches, and all of a sudden you think of a beautiful way to explain the Mahloket Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam in a certain sugya in the Gemara that has nothing to do with the morning. That's asur. However, if it's a hiddush, let's say on Masechet Gittin, which talks about the stories of the Hurban Beit HaMikdash. You heard the story now, a beautiful idea connected, and you say, wow, this is beautiful. Now, to write it down, so that's a mahloket, the poskim that forbid, poskim that permit it. I saw a beautiful compromise, Pesket Shuvot brings in the name of Sideh Hemet, that he says, you know what you should do? Write down a few words just for a reminder. Don't write down the full Dvar Torah, just write a few words, like kind of Rashi Tibod or headings, and a little bit of an outline of the idea, so this way you come back after Tisha B'Av and you can write it completely. Okay, we move on now to the second category. The 5 Enuyim, the 5 things are forbidden on Tisha B'Av. Let's review them very quickly. Number 1, eating and drinking. Number 2, washing. Number 3, anointing. Number 4 is leather shoes. And finally, number 5, relations. Let's begin with number 1, Eating and drinking. We are not allowed to eat, we're not allowed to drink on Tisha B'Av. That's what we call fasting. Who must fast? Everybody who's above the age of 12 for girls and above the age of 13 for boys. However, there are those who are exempt. The following people are exempt from fasting, even though they're above the age of 12 or 13. That means the girls or boys. As the way, kids are under the age of bar mitzvah or a year before their bar mitzvah. There's no need to make them fast and make them suffer. If they want to fast on their own, make sure that they don't push themselves. Kids have limitations. A lot of times adults don't know their limitations. Therefore, a kid says, I want to fast. It's hot usually in Tisha B'Av, and it can be very humid in certain parts of the world. So you have to be very on top of them if they want to fast. In general, it's not a good idea because there's no point. When you get to the age, they'll fast. But now they're not hayab. There's no need for them, especially 6, 7 years old. They want to fast a few hours, fine. They tell them if they want to do something for Tisha B'Av, fine. Then don't eat ices, don't eat snacks, eat just the basics, rice cakes, eat bread, but don't fast where Has V'Shalom could put the kids in sakana, and certainly do not push them to fast. Here are a list of adults, according to Halacha, that are exempt from fasting. Number 1, a sick person. A sick person means one whose doctor tells him you're not allowed to fast. Number 2, pregnant woman who has a hard time holding a baby, and therefore the doctor tells him you're not allowed to fast because it could be a danger for you or the baby, should not fast. In general, when we list the exemptions over here, these 2 exemptions, the sick person and pregnant woman, always verify with the rabbi. We're saying in general. But, if you don't have a rabbi and you didn't get to ask, so no, don't fast. But if you have a person to ask, please consult with them and tell them your situation and see. And always, always consult with your doctor. Somebody just texts me, Rabbi, do I have to fast? I'm 6 months pregnant. And the answer is, what did your doctor say? And she says, the doctor says it's fine, but you should check it with your rabbi. So that's it. You check with the rabbi. You check with the doctor first. If they tell you fine, check with the rabbi. And then, you make sure you do it properly. Next. After ladies, after giving birth, that means any lady, yes, only lady, any lady who's given birth, even if it's a miscarriage, she has a deen of giving birth. If it's within 7 days, she should not fast. Between 7 to 30 days, a lady who's given birth between 7 to 30 days, then she does not have to fast on Tisha B'Av, but if she could, she's strong and she's able to fast, and it's not going to affect her or the baby, then she should try to fast, but she doesn't have to. Anything past 30 days, if a woman is actually nursing, technically she's hayab to fast, but if it may cause some sort of harm to her or to the baby, sometimes ladies are very weak after giving birth, even after 30 days, a C-section, whatever it may be, consult with your rabbi to decide if if you're obligated to fast or not. Here's a question. What if a person in the list that we mentioned above, if a person above who's not going to fast, is patur from fasting, he's planning to eat bread, what do you do? Because we know also you can't wash your hands. So how do you eat bread? And the answer is, if you plan to eat bread, if it's anywhere more than 2 ounces, then it's like any other halacha. You wash your hands all the way to the wrist, like the way you do throughout the year. We're going to explain later on that washing that's forbidden on Tisha B'Av is only washing for pleasure, but washing for the sake of a mitzvah or cleaning, as we'll see, is not forbidden. So therefore, if a person is planning to has to eat on Tisha B'Av and he's eating bread, you do a regular netilat yadayim. If it's 2 ounces or more, you make a bracha on netilat yadayim, and you say hamotzi on the bread. You eat your food, whatever you need to eat. Try not to eat the extras and the ketchup and all these other things, the ices and the ice creams. And then afterwards, you say brachat hamazon. There's actually a mahloket between the poskim if a person should add anything brachat hamazon. In the part where we add usually alev yabo or retzev halatzen on Yom Shabbat, according to the Ben Ish Hai, if a person who is not fasting is eating his meal after zman of mincha, let's say from about 2 o'clock and onwards, he should stick in Nachum. The Nachum, the paragraph that we add in Tefillat Mincha of Tisha B'Av, you should stick it into the brachat hamazon. However, Ahmadiyya says, don't say it. And certainly, even if you want to follow Ben Ish Hai, if you forgot to mention Nachum or brachat hamazon that you're eating on Tisha B'Av, you do not have to repeat the brachat hamazon. Here's another question, a very, very common question. What if a person must take medicine on Tisha B'Av? He has to take pills. Let's start with pills. If a person could just swallow the pill without any liquid, swallow it, no problem. Even if it's a Tylenol, it doesn't have to be like a blood pressure medicine or any medicine that person has to take for chronic sickness. Even something that comes up on Tisha B'Av, you want to take a pill because you want to take Advil or Tylenol just like that without any water, it's fine. In a case where a person cannot swallow the pill by itself, he must have some liquid. So here we have two different ways of doing it. Ahmad says, okay, it's a little bit of water. You can have just that little water that you need to swallow, kind of like a spoon size water. The Or Letzion, Maham Ben Zion says, do it in a way where you're not going to have any benefit from the liquid. How? If you know you have to take the medicine beforehand, or if you plan to take it on, where you have to take the medicine with some water, take water or hot water, put in put very little of water, like let's say an ounce or two, and put in a tea bag and let it soak in there for a while. That water will be very bitter. There's absolutely no hana'ah from that water. And then you need to take your pill, you take that bitter water, and you allow the pill to go down without actually enjoying or having benefit from the liquid. That's the two approaches. Certainly, if you could do like Acham Ben Zion, do it. If you don't have the chance to do like Acham Ben Zion and you need to take the pill, you need to take your medicine, you take it. Now, what about liquid medicines? In the case where a person has to take liquid medicine, then you take it. There's nothing to talk about. You take it. If it's something that you don't have to take, you don't take it. And certainly for kids, like we said, they're not supposed to be fasting. Take their liquid. Let's move on to the second thing that's forbidden on Tisha B'Av. Washing. In general, all washing that's for pleasure is forbidden. It doesn't make a difference if you're using hot water or if you're using cold water or lukewarm, anything in between. You're not allowed to wash on Tisha B'Av. Here are the exceptions. Number one, when you're washing for cleanliness, you have dirt on yourself, you're allowed to wash. Even if soap is necessary to remove the dirt, is mutar. I'll give you an example. If you're changing the baby's diapers, yes, men could also change the diapers. If you happen to change the kid's diapers and it gets on you, or it gets on him and you're cleaning him and it gets, basically you're dirty, you're allowed to wash that part of the body. And even though you may need hot water to take it out, let's say it doesn't come out, you may need hot water, you're allowed to use hot water. Even if you need soap to take it out, you're allowed to use soap to take it out. Another heter for washing is to remove the ruach ra'ah. We have halachot if you touch your shoes, or if you touch if you touch dirty stuff, or if you scratch yourself, all these halachot where a person is washing for ruach ra'ah, it's mutar. That's why in the morning, if a person wakes up, what does he do? He washes also. But in that case, even though it's for a mitzvah, and technically you should be able to wash your full hand, but the poskim bring down, as the Ben Ishai explains, Al Pi Kabbalah, the ruach ra'ah is so strong on the day of Tisha B'Av that you can't get rid of it beyond the knuckles. So there's no point of washing beyond the knuckles. You only wash up to the knuckles when you're doing nitlat yadayim in the morning. However, when washing for a different mitzvah, for example, by the Sfaradim, we have Birkat Kohanim in the afternoon. So the Kohanim that go up to say Birkat Kohanim, obviously before the fast is over, they're allowed to wash their hands all the way up to the wrist. However, this is only mutar for the actual Kohanim. There's a custom that the Leviim who wash the Kohanim's hands also do nitlat yadayim. This custom is wonderful throughout the year except for Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. Leviim cannot wash their own hands. It's only minhag. For the Kohanim, it's more of a hayub, so therefore the Kohanim could wash their hands, but not the full hand, only up to the knuckles, like we said before. Sick people that have to wash in hot water, consult your rabbi. Let him tell you when it's mutar, what's mutar, and what not. And of course, we mentioned above, if a person needs to eat bread, he could do a full netilah all the way up to the wrist. Question: could a person wash dishes on Tisha B'Av? Answer: if dishes are needed immediately, then they can be washed. For example, if a person needs to feed the kids, doesn't have any plastic, he has some dishes that he wants to give to the kids, or they only eat with certain plates and the plates are dirty, you're allowed to wash it. Oh, but my hand's going to get wet. It's fine. But you should keep the following in mind. You could only use cold water, unless, again, you can't get it out with cold water, you need actually hot water. And Acham Ben Zion says it's better if you could use gloves. But if you can't use gloves, you can't use gloves. But you should only use cold water. Also, regarding washing dishes in general, if you have dishes that you need to be washed for the meal that night, There's no problem with hachana, but as we'll learn, hopefully towards the end of the class, that up to Hatzot, a person should concentrate fully on the fast. After Hatzot, then the person who needs could already do things that are needed for after the fast, like preparing the meal, and in this case, washing the dishes. So if a lady needs to wash the dishes for after the meal, she could do so after the Hatzot if it's not needed immediately. Third category of what's forbidden on the day of Tisha B'Av is anointing. Anointing, again, is applying any oils or creams. These are only forbidden when it's for pleasure. But anything that's applied just to remove a smell, it's not for pleasure, but there's a smell, it's mutar. So therefore, deodorants are mutar to be used on Tisha B'Av. Is it preferable to have deodorants without any smell? Of course. Odorless deodorants are the best. But if one doesn't have any has any smells, any sweating, especially in the summer, you're allowed to use the deodorant if it's a stick or a spray. But again, be careful not to, abuse the halacha, abuse the heter. It's only mutar to get rid of a smell or to prevent a smell. Creams in general are forbidden, but if it's for medicine, it's mutar. So if a person needs to put Ben Gay because it's what's it called? He has an ache, whatever. That's mutar on Tisha B'Av because it's done for medicinal purposes. Fourth category of what's asur on Tisha B'Av we mentioned are leather shoes. The general rule is any leather that's made for protecting one's shoe, one's foot, on the shoe, then it's pasul. So that means any part of the leather that's on the shoe that's used for the protection of a person, whether it's on the top or on the bottom, doesn't make a difference. You can't wear such a shoe. What happens if a person only has leather shoes? Then you could wear them only when it's necessary. For example, the poskim bring down by soldiers in Eretz Israel, the Hayalet Tzahal, if they need to wear the army boots, they can wear them because it's necessary. On enemy territories, you can't go barefoot and all these different places. Or if a person has to travel somewhere and he can't go barefoot, you can wear the leather shoes just to the point where you get to. Let's say you need to travel from your house to the shul, and you can wear the leather shoes because you have no other shoes. And then when you get to the shul, take them off. Me'ikar din, that means strictly halakhically speaking, children under the age of bar or bat mitzvah don't have the obligation of wearing non-leather shoes. They can wear leather shoes. However, it's better to train them that they should not wear leather shoes, as you see the minhag is that way. Even the kids in like playgroup or younger even, they come home from camp with the slippers. That's the Tisha B'Av. So it's good to train them from then on, but technically they don't have to. And certainly if a kid has a condition, he needs to wear certain shoes, even if it's leather, not a problem. There's some who have the minhag of not making the beracha of sha'asa likot tzorki. Some debate it. Some only just quoting it. So do as your minhag is. Here's a question. If somebody remembers doing the 9 days, or even on Erev Tisha B'Av that he doesn't have shoes, could they buy them? We mentioned that you're not allowed to buy any new garment during the 9 days. So the answer to this question is the same answer that we gave before. That if it's something that's necessary during the 9 days, it is mutar. So therefore, not having shoes, not having leather shoes on Tisha B'Av, and you need you need non-leather shoes on Tisha B'Av, you're allowed to buy them even Erev Tisha B'Av because it's needed. We move on now finally to the fifth and final category of the 5 Inuim that's forbidden on Tisha B'Av, and that is relations. The easiest way to simplify this halacha is conduct yourself, that means husband and wife should conduct themselves like the way they are during the non-clean days. However, a person could pass things to his wife. He shouldn't touch her in the evening. In the daytime, also recommended not to, but he's not allowed to touch her in the evening. But in the daytime, it's not a problem. But again, that's touching. But just passing an item is not a problem, assuming she is in her clean days. Another thing, not exactly in this category, but it's a little bit related to it, sleeping. Of course, separate beds, but I'm talking about even an individual, any person. When sleeping, a person is brought down, the Rama brings down, that person should cut down on his comforts in his sleep. That means, if you could do it, sleep on the floor. What does it mean, sleep on the floor? Well, let's work with levels. If you can actually sleep on the actual floor, okay, great. Yes, it's not comfortable. We're talking about it's not comfortable. Cut down on your comfort. Give yourself a little tzar. If you cannot do it, you have a mattress, okay, you don't have to. But if you could take your mattress and put it on the floor, certainly you should do that also. If even that's not possible. You normally sleep with 2, 3 pillows. Cut down, take away one, sleep only on one. Some people used to sleep with a stone instead of a pillow. Whatever you can, basically, to give yourself a little bit of tsar, a little bit of pain. Because of the day, one should do so during the day of Tisha B'Av. And that leads us now to the third category of Tisha B'Av. And that is, we mentioned that the conducts and how we should conduct ourselves Tisha B'Av. Well, we're coming off what we just said by sleeping. A person should basically, understand what the day is about and conduct yourself accordingly. It's not a day to hang out and to relax and chill out and to enjoy. It's a day where it's not gonna. You don't want a Tisha B'Av. We don't like it this way, and we put ourselves in a certain mentality that we shouldn't have. We should pray and we should fix what we need to fix in order that we should have such a day. So therefore, the following list of things may sound like, oh my gosh, but that some of them are mamash halacha, as we'll point out, and some of them it's a good thing to do. Number one is we sit on the floor. We sit on the floor from the onset of Tisha B'Av in the evening when it comes in, all the way until Hatzot the next day. A person who has back issues, okay, they're exempt. If you can't sit on the floor, but you should get yourself some sort of chair that's below 3 tefahim. That's still considered sitting on the floor. So if you want to take small little chairs from the little kids, the little kiddie chairs that they have in playgroups, those are usually below 3 tefahim. That's fine if you can't sit actually on the floor. Next, she'elat shalom is forbidden during Tisha B'Av. That means no greetings. Mishnah says even good morning. You can't say good morning even to a person. Not just shalom. What about people don't understand the think you're rude and they can say, this is why we have Tisha B'Av. People like you don't say hi. And in your mind, you're probably thinking, no, we have Tisha B'Av because people like you who are my audits. We go learn Halacha. The Halacha says is that you do not ask, you don't greet Tisha B'Av. But Halacha does also say, a person who doesn't understand, you should tell him, we don't say hello during the what's it called? We don't say hello on Tisha B'Av. And of course, you don't want to make issues, you don't want to make fights either. Question: could a person go to work on Tisha B'Av? A very common question. Could a person go to work on Tisha B'Av? So the brings down that it depends on the minhag. If the minhag is that people go to work, you go to work. If the minhag is that people don't go to work, so you don't go to work. So it all depends on the minhag. Now, this is talking about melacha. But also it's brought down that even regular business, what we call today business of buying and selling, also should not be, your person should cut down. Even where the minhag is to go to work, a person should cut down. That means close a little earlier. Don't try to hustle so much. Do what's minimum if you have to. If you don't have to go to work, it's brought down that anybody could volunteer for this to not work on Tisha B'Av. Small melachot that don't time, like putting on the light or driving a car, those are things that don't require you to, focus on them, that you could do on Tisha B'Av. Even in a case where it's forbidden, if a person wants the goy to do it, he could do it. He could give it to him. That means if you're in a kehillah, where the custom is that people don't go to work on Tisha B'Av, you're allowed to have the goy work in your stead. That's only talking about things where it would have been mutar during the 9 days. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a store. You're part of a community that people don't work on Tisha B'Av. So you may not open your store, but you could have your manager, who's a non-Jew, open up the store on Tisha B'Av. He could work for you. That's mutar. Some are lenient also, like the Rama brings down, that even those who have a custom of not doing melacha on Tisha B'Av are lenient after Hatzot. Is that everybody? No, there are some opinions that way. So therefore, even if a person wants to, let's say he's part of his minhag is that people do go to work. So he wants to be mahmir himself, he could mahmir up to Hatzot, he could start out that way certainly, and of course if he could be mahmir more not to go to work throughout Tisha B'Av, the more the better. And other minhagim, other customs of the day, they are connected to Allah. Now because of the different kehilot, I'm just going to point out certain things. I'm not going to tell you exactly what the different minhagim, because I know there's plenty of minhagim, so I'm just going to point them out. Number one is anenu. We add anenu in all of our tefillot, which is a prayer that's said when a person is fasting. If you're not fasting, or you're planning to break your fast because the doctor told you you're not allowed to fast, you do not add anenu. And in case if you are fasting, you certainly do not have to repeat Damidah. By minha, whether you're fasting or not fasting, we add in the tefillah the special prayer called that starts with Nachum. That's added in the bracha of Bonei Yerushalayim. If a person forgot Nachum, again, you do not have to repeat Amidah. Tefillin. A lot of people have different minhagin of how they put on tefillin. Some put it in the house, some put it in the shul, some put it only in the afternoon. Follow what your minhag is. I'm just pointing it out that in case you don't know, you should look into it. And as we mentioned above, there's minhagim with tefillah also. Some have a minhag of not saying the bracha of sha'asali kotzorki. Some do say it. Again, check with your local Orthodox rabbi. Baruch Hashem, we finished the halachot of Tisha B'Av, but there are still one more category of halachot, and that is the halachot of Asiri B'Av, the 10th of Av. Why should there be halachot on 10th of Av? Tisha B'Av is over. And the answer is, Hazal tell us, the Rabbi Hanan says, if he was alive during the time when Hazal instituted the fast of Tisha B'Av, he would have made the fast begin, he would have made the fast be on the 10th of Av. Why? Because really, Beit HaMikdash was destroyed in Tisha B'Av, but really what happened is that the Beit HaMikdash was set on fire towards the afternoon of Tisha B'Av. Towards the end of the day of Tisha B'Av, the Beit HaMikdash was set on fire, but it continued to burn in the night of the 10th of Av and throughout the day of the 10th of Av. And because of that, there's a minhag that the Shulchan Aruch brings down. He says it's a minhag kasher that people should not eat meat or drink wine the entire 10th of Av. That's what Maram brings down. Shulchan Aruch is posek, as many Sephardim way, that it's a minhag kasher not to eat meat or drink wine the entire 10th of Av. Even if you don't have such a minhag, it's a good minhag to have. It's not asur because it's not your minhag. It's a good minhag to have. So therefore, those who follow the Rama says, up to Hatzot, our minhag is only up to Hatzot. But if you want to be mahmir for the sake of Beit HaMikdash, it's a good thing to do, but it's not asur. Just because you follow the Rama doesn't mean you have to eat after Hatzot and run out to the barbecue. But the minhag that the Rama brings down is only up to Hatzot. In fact, there's some Sephardic communities, I believe some Kehilot from the Syrian community, also they don't have meat on the 10th of Ab up to Hatzot. Hatzot is about 102. However, you should know also, there's some people who don't have such a minhag at all. Some people have a minhag that immediately with the conclusion of Tisha B'Av, right when Tisha B'Av is over, they go right away to eating meat and drinking wine and making barbecues and such things. Again, it's only minhag. You have such a custom. If you have such a custom, then you do it. You don't have such a custom, okay, so you don't do it. The Ashkenazim are a little bit more mahmir. The Mishnah Berurah brings down that besides not eating meat or drinking wine on at the conclusion of Tisha B'Av until Hatzot of 10th of Av, they also do not take hot showers or bathe the 10th of Av. They also do not do laundry or wear laundered stuff. And they also for the men, they don't take haircuts or shave until Hatzot of the 10th of Av. However, there are also those are matir, as the Be'ur Halacha brings down over there in name, I believe, Mar Mordechai. When it's necessary, don't just jump to give yourself a heter. Call a Rav, a competent Rav, especially if it's your rabbi, and ask him about your situation, if you're Ashkenazi, and see if it's mutar. For the Sfaradim, like we said, the minhag is only by meat and wine for the 10th of Av, and some have earlier, some have later, but that's the minhag. Each one should follow in his minhag. Baruch Hashem, we concluded the three categories of halakha. I know we went a little bit fast, we didn't explain as much, but Baruch Hashem, we pretty much said everything. I don't think we've ever done that in the years before, so we are very, very excited about that. I just want to conclude with the last halakha that Shulchan Aruch brings down himself when he talks about the halachot of Tisha B'Av. Maran says, at the end of the halachot of Tisha B'Av, he quotes a Gemara, the Gemara Masechet Gittin, that says, Kol hamit'abel al Yerushalayim, whoever mourns Yerushalayim will be zoche l'r'od b'nei hamata, will merit to see also when we get consoled, when Hashem rebuilds Yerushalayim. That means when right now you're mourning, your looks like you're suffering and it's all terrible. Yes, it's bad, but trust me, when the good days will come, you'll be. However, a person who eats and drinks on Tisha B'Av when it's not necessary, he will not see with the happiness of Yerushalayim. So therefore, Rabotai, this asked me recently, what's the point of fasting and all these different customs in these days? Something happened so long ago. I can't relate to it so much. Okay, I'm going to do it, but I don't understand it. The answer is that when we fast and we mourn, when we do all these customs of mourning during these days, we're, even though it didn't happen to us, the Beit HaMikdash didn't get destroyed in our days, and yes, the Gemara says it's like it was destroyed in our days, but still, we're connecting ourselves with the generations of Jews throughout all of history that have suffered due to the Hurban Beit HaMikdash. As we said in the past, the destruction of Beit HaMikdash may have happened in one moment of time in history, but the effects of the Hurban are still felt till today. Till today, the fact that we see sicknesses, the fact that we see tragedies and sufferings, we hear it left and right, unfortunately. There's always something in the news, especially during these weeks. It's due to the fact that we don't have the protection of Hashem during these days. So, yes, it didn't happen in our days, but the effects are happening nowadays. And therefore, when we're fasting, when we're mourning really for what we're missing. We're mourning also because we're part of that big, large, huge Jewish nation, the one that's lasted for thousands of years, that is waiting for the redemption, that's waiting for the rebuilding of the Beit HaMikdash. Mezat Hashem, which be Zocheh, just like we mourn with Yerushalayim, we should see B'nehamata, B'mhera B'yameinu with the Bi'at Mashiach, and Mezat Hashem will sign off right now. We'll see you next week. We want to give a thanks to J-Root Radio, Iran, Rav Nissim, and Aryeh for helping us out. This class will be aired on again tonight at 10 o'clock here on jrootradio.com. Till next week, have a wonderful week, and Shabbat Shalom and an easy fast.